Hello there, Star Wars fans. Today we're picking up immediately after yesterday's part 1 of What If Luke Skywalker Joined the Empire. So if you haven't watched that one, you might need to. But here's, where we're picking up. Luke joined the Empire and quickly rose through the ranks. In this story, we're having Luke at pretty high power, pretty much feeling the power within him throughout his life, joining the Empire, rising up, and then the attack on Yavin 4 by the Death Star. Luke was on the Empire's side in a TIE fighter and was able to stop the attack. The Death Star blew up Yavin 4. The rebellion lost. Kenobi and Leia, along with a few other rebel leaders, escaped, but not many. So that's where we're picking up today. If you didn't watch part 1, give that a listen. And yeah, I had fun writing this one. As always, this is not meant to be taken realistically. I have fun with these. I really just kind of go all out. Let's make it fun. Not so much realistic. It's a what-if story. There's going to be plot holes. There's going to be weird things. Whatever. Let's have fun with it. Hope you enjoy. Please do leave a like. It helps a ton if you hit the like button. And of course, subscribe for daily Star Wars content. All right, let's go. By the way, before I get started, quick intermission immediately, as I forgot to say this, but I don't have time today to put in a bunch of different pictures. I hope you just are okay with a more audio type without, pictures changing every 15 seconds or so. I'm honestly making these videos in every free moment that I have in my life, trying to, get it out, and because I truly enjoy doing this. Like, I love it. It's so much fun. And someday I hope to make it what I can just do. But in the meantime, I don't exactly have time to just put a picture everywhere. But hope you enjoyed just looking at a few different pictures throughout. And yeah, please do leave a like, please subscribe. It helps out a ton. I put a lot of work into this stuff, a lot of time, a lot of my free time. But I do it for you. I do it because the fan base and just the community I'm building has grown, and I truly, truly love doing it. So leave a like, subscribe. Thank you all very much. And part 3 tomorrow. Stay tuned. Part 3 tomorrow. See ya. The rebellion had lost. They were scattered across the galaxy after the Death Star blew up Yavin 4. No main base, many leaders gone, so few options remaining. But this was not the first time Obi-Wan had seen a loss like this. And the same could be said for Leia. Obi-Wan had lost the entire Jedi Order, and Leia lost her planet to that exact battle station. They would continue to be persistent, together. Leia had grown very strong in the light side of the Force, and Obi-Wan had now been training her for roughly 9 years in secret from everyone, except for a few people on Alderaan. They were both hurt by the loss of Yavin, but they knew it was going to be up to them to ultimately destroy the Sith and restore peace. It had now been a few months since the Death Star blew up their base, and they had to strike back soon. But Obi-Wan did not think they could do it alone. They would go get help. They would go to Luke and get him to join the fight against the Empire. Hope remained for the Jedi, Obi-Wan thought. Across the galaxy, immediately after the Empire's crushing victory above Yavin, Luke was following the dark shadow, many hallways through the Death Star. His metallic steps and giant paces in his enormous body were all intimidating, but Luke still followed closely behind. He wanted a chance to show what he was capable of, and now he was getting it. The two entered a room that was clearly where the shadow resided, and Luke looked around at the cybernetic parts and the large chamber in front of him. My home on the sands of Tatooine was more comfortable than this, thought Luke. And the shadow spoke. You are powerful, young Luke. Are you aware of the power inside of you, the darkness inside of you? He asked. And Luke replied, I am, but I don't know what it is. I'm afraid of it. But every day I feel it growing, some days tearing me apart, but other days making me the best version of myself. The shadow stared at him and replied, You are far from the best version of yourself, but we share this dark power. You are strong in the Force, Luke, and with my training, you can become the strongest being in the galaxy. Luke paced around the room. He knew he was special. But strongest in the galaxy? How could that be? Luke spoke again. How do you know this? I don't even know who you truly are." Vader replied now like he was waiting for this question. "I am Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, formerly a Jedi called Anakin Skywalker. And for the first time in my life, I have found out that I have a child. Luke, you are my child, and with my training we can rule the galaxy as father and son." Luke knew it to be true. With the power and the feeling inside of him, he could tell Vader, Anakin, was not lying. His entire life was turned upside down. Why had he been wasting it on Tatooine? He could have accomplished so much. Why was he held back his entire life? Emotions ran through him. The dark feeling rose. Vader spoke, "Do not hide your feelings. Let them erupt, and in time, you will control them with my help." And so Luke did it. He didn't hide away from the powerful feeling, but rather he let it explode out of him, destroying machines around the room, making Vader even take a small step back. Luke loved this powerful feeling. "I will train with you, Father." And so the future of the galaxy was forever changed. Over the next couple months, Luke would train with Vader, but he had to be kept hidden from the galaxy. According to the altered logs, Luke had died above Yavin in a heroic sacrifice to save the Death Star. Vader was the only person in the galaxy to know about what Luke was truly doing. The Empire had won for now and silenced the rebellion during this time. So Luke and Vader had plenty of time to train together in Vader's castle on Mustafar. Luke trained, and he learned. He learned about the Jedi, how they'd betrayed the Republic, everything that had gone on during the Clone Wars. But Vader overall was very secretive. On some days, though, he would talk about Padme, Luke's mother. But that was usually after the more rigorous training days, trying to remind Luke why they were doing everything, why they were together. And Luke grew powerful, more powerful than Anakin at his age, but he really had no idea how to use the power. Vader was molding him to make sure he was perfect. He would test his limits. He would turn Luke into what Anakin should have been. And after a month of intense training in the Force, Luke had a mission. He was to kill a Jedi hidden away on the planet of Thespias. It was an old Jedi Master who had been around since the High Republic days and had now made the mistake of returning to his home world. Vader told Luke, "I have an assignment for you, young Luke. Before we begin your lightsaber training, you must first acquire a lightsaber from a fallen Jedi. Former Jedi Council member Oppo Rancis is hidden at these coordinates on his home planet of Thespias. Kill him, and your strength in the Force will be proven." Luke was ready for this opportunity. "Yes, Father," he responded, and he took off to kill the Jedi. He was unaware that Vader followed, just in case. Luke eventually landed on the rocky planet, and over a couple hours he scouted out the location of the Jedi Master. Eventually, Luke was in a cave, and he'd climbed above where Oppo was meditating. A shift in the Force caused Oppo to wake. "It's about time the Empire found me," he said out loud before igniting his lightsaber and looking at Luke, who had a hood covering his face. This was it, a true test for Luke, and one he would win. He jumped down now for a fair battle. The two warriors faced each other in the barren, rocky terrain of the cave. Oppo Rancis held his lightsaber at the ready, while Luke Skywalker stood poised, his hands outstretched, ready to unleash the power of the Force. Oppo charged towards Luke with his lightsaber, unleashing a flurry of strikes, but Luke dodged the attacks with rather ease, using his agility to avoid the deadly blade. His agility had grown strong, one of his better strengths, and Oppo continued his assault. Luke focused his energy and sent a powerful Force push towards his opponent, knocking him off balance. But Oppo would regain his balance using the Force to send rocks at Luke from behind him. which Luke would dodge, but he barely then noticed the lightsaber flying at him, cutting his cheek as he dodged at the last second. Luke staggered. Things were not looking good for him at this point, and suddenly Vader dropped down. Luke yelled, "Stay away!" before pushing Vader very far with the Force. Determined once again, he was going to do this. He was going to prove himself alone. Now. Oppo charged again, this time a fierce determination, but Luke was more ready, and he raised his hand. Oppo suddenly found himself lifted in the air, held there by the power of the Force. Luke stepped forward, eyes locked on his lightsaber, and with a sudden burst of energy, Luke used the Force to wrench the weapon from Oppo's grasp, sending it flying through the air. With his lightsaber gone, Oppo was defenseless against Luke, and Luke continued to use the Force to pummel him with unseen blows, sending the Jedi Master crashing to the ground. Finally, Oppo lay still, defeated. Luke approached him, holding his own lightsaber in his hand, and he ignited it through the chest of the broken Jedi, killing him. Luke then walked to Vader, the green saber in his hand. "You doubted me?" Luke asked. "No," Vader replied. "Just a bit of extra motivation," said Vader, and the two headed back towards Mustafar. Luke had won. He was nearly ready, and over the next month, he gained training in lightsaber combat. He'd bled the saber that he'd won in combat to match the crimson red of Vader, and much in his training of the Force, he excelled at lightsaber combat as well. Training on Mustafar, in the castle, or in the lava flats, Luke was prepared and ready for anything. And eventually, Luke and Vader were talking after a training duel. Luke asked what the Jedi were like before they betrayed the Republic. Vader explained that they were once wise, strong, hopeful, and a beacon of light for the galaxy. But then everything turned, and Luke told Vader, "The Jedi remind me of a man I knew as a child back on Tatooine. Old Ben Kenobi," Luke said. Vader stood up and looked at Luke with ferocity he'd never seen. "Obi-Wan Kenobi? He is the man who put me in this suit, the Jedi traitor that cut me apart on the lava flats. You know him?" Luke stammered, "Father, it's been at least a decade since I last saw him. I had no idea. He disappeared when I was only a child. I only spoke to him once." Vader seemed to calm himself. "Very well, but who would know where he is now?" he asked. Luke replied, "Perhaps only my aunt and uncle. But they've done nothing wrong. We shouldn't hurt them." "They've hidden perhaps the most dangerous Jedi in the galaxy from the Empire for years," Vader replied. "But if they reveal his location, they will live." And they took off for Tatooine. At the same time, from the beginning of today's story, Obi-Wan and Leia were also headed for Tatooine, with their mission to finally recruit Luke to their cause. Vader and Luke landed on Tatooine, stepped onto the sands. The Lars homestead was in their sights. Luke remarked, "I don't like sand," and Vader agreed. They would get the information needed and get out of here. And finally, Luke reached the home and called out, "Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, it's Luke." And the two made their way up the stairs into the opening, seeing Luke like they've never seen him before, and seeing Vader alongside him. "Luke, what's going on? Where have you been? Who is this?" they said, looking in confusion and fear at Vader. "Where is Kenobi?" Vader said. "That is what we are here for. You will tell us, or you will die." "We haven't seen Kenobi in years," Owen said. "He didn't tell us where he was going. For our own safety." And Vader lifted him up by the throat. Luke wanted him to stop, but Vader was his real family after all. Luke had embraced the dark side, embraced the Sith. This was his path now. Owen struggled. He struggled in the air, and suddenly a ship flew above them, and two figures leapt out, igniting their blue lightsabers. "Put him down, Vader. Now." And so Vader did, simply because he no longer cared about Owen and Beru. Obi-Wan Kenobi was now standing right in front of him, and he had an apprentice, a girl, roughly the same age as Luke. "Obi-Wan, at last you reveal yourself to me. I hope you can now see your failure in hiding my child from me." Luke emerged from behind Vader. Kenobi looked saddened for a moment before speaking. "Not exactly, Darth. Leia here is living proof of the good that was once a part of you." Vader realized it. He had twins, and Obi-Wan had truly taken one of them from him and corrupted her to become a Jedi. Vader ignited his saber. Obi-Wan did the same and assumed his Jedi pose. Obi-Wan realized trying to get Vader to come back to the light was no use, and Luke, well, he just looked corrupted. Vader had done it. Obi-Wan was too late. Obi-Wan left him, and Luke went down the dark path the same as his father. Obi-Wan had to protect the Jedi. He had to kill Vader, and if that meant also killing Luke, so be it. Luke and Leia, each at their master's side, also ignited their sabers. Luke red, Leia blue, and the battle began. Vader and Luke charged towards Obi-Wan and Leia, their lightsabers blazing to life. Obi-Wan and Leia quickly raised their own lightsabers in defense, and the fight began. Vader and Luke much more offensive, Leia and Obi-Wan much more defensive in their styles, and Obi-Wan was rather quick to strike when there was an opening, but Vader parried his blows with ease. Meanwhile, Luke engaged Leia in a flurry of attacks. The two of them matched evenly in skill. As the fight raged on, the combatants moved fluidly across the arena, their lightsabers clashing, sparks flying across the desert. Obi-Wan and Leia worked together in rather perfect harmony. They had been training for years after all. They used their teamwork, gaining an upper hand against their opponents now. However, Vader and Luke were not easily defeated, and with their immense power in the Force, they were able to launch a devastating counterattack that put Obi-Wan and Leia back on their defensive approach. And despite their best efforts, the two Jedi found themselves slowly losing ground to the powerful Sith Lords. Vader and Luke's skill in the dark side was too much for them to continue to handle right now. It seemed that victory was becoming inevitable for the Sith Lords, and Obi-Wan's best days were clearly behind him. But Leia had grown extremely strong in the Force as a Jedi, using both her powers in the light and occasionally tapping into the dark. Eventually, the four converged on each other as Vader cut Obi-Wan across the chest, sending him to the ground, and Leia used this moment to push Luke away, grabbed Vader's respirator with the Force. She began to crush it, using some hidden away anger for what Vader just did to Kenobi. Vader cut off the Force connection and charged her, but Leia was ready. From a distance, Luke threw his own saber at her. Leia caught it in mid-air, throwing it into the chest of the unsuspecting Vader. He dropped to his knees as Luke screamed, "No!" and called the saber back to him. Luke and Leia were about to engage in an intense battle to the death when Vader halted Luke, and with raspy breathing he spoke. "Luke, join your sister. Kill the Emperor. It is your destinies. It was my destiny, Obi-Wan's destiny perhaps, to bring you together. It will be my final victory." And then Vader fell to the ground. Luke deactivated his saber, went to his dead father now, and Leia did the same with Kenobi, where he lay, giving his final breaths. "Your father, he is right. Help your brother see the light. Destroy the Emperor with your combined power. Save the galaxy." And he died like Vader. Luke and Leia got up simultaneously. They stared at each other, confused and a bit lost without their masters. Their power together would be insane. But they didn't quite know each other. But they were siblings. They could feel it. They could feel each other's power, the connection that had just been waiting years to finally reach each other. And finally, Leia reached out her hand. "Join me, brother. We will kill the Emperor, as both our masters intended. We will avenge them. It is our destiny." Luke reached out, grabbed Leia's hand. "You're right, Leia. Together, And that's where we're ending part 2. I didn't know what path to take a battle between Luke and Vader versus Leia and Kenobi, but I thought, hey, what about killing off the Masters and having the apprentices team up? It's not a dark side ending, nor is it a light side ending. I didn't want to kill off Luke. I didn't want to kill off Leia. I didn't want to go all dark, all light. So I went down the middle. Yes, again, it's crazy. It's wild. And once again, sorry I didn't really have time to put a bunch of pictures, but I wanted to get part 2 out today. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. Thank you all. Yeah, hope you enjoy. I thought it was an interesting one. Part 3, by the way, for those wondering, tomorrow. Part 3 tomorrow. Luke and Leia take on the Empire. Let me know what you thought. Hope you enjoy, truly, I do. I enjoy doing these. Taking a lot, honestly. Just kind of every free moment I have is going into this stuff, so please do leave a like, please subscribe. A lot of time is going into it. So thank you all. Have a great day.